If you've just joined us, welcome to it. All things love and romance are the discussion this Wednesday. This is African Diaries, Shayla Ndikumana, and we've got the next hour, 21 minutes together. Speaking about love, when two people fall in love, we often call it chemistry. This is an extension of shared values, sometimes emotional connection. But what happens when we look at the context of meeting minds? Now, tonight we are diving into a fascinating and often overlooked dimension of relationships: IQ compatibility. The idea is how we think, process, and engage intellectually might be just as important as how we feel. And that's the idea we're testing this evening. Does being on the same wavelength mentally make love last longer, is the question. Can a difference in intellectual pace or curiosity create friction or perhaps growth, right? And what actually matters more, IQ or the quality of thought and communication we bring to the relationship? Now, to help us unpack all of these and so much more, we are joined by Coach Paulo Mendes, one of South Africa's leading voices in relationship and life coaching. Paulo has spent years helping couples build stronger foundations through pre-marriage counseling, emotional connection, and the deep healing of relational rifts. Now, his work goes beyond the surface. It explores how emotional intelligence, mindset, and self-awareness shape the love we build and, of course, the conflicts we navigate. Paulo joins us on the line. Coach, good evening to you. Welcome to African Diaries.
Good evening. How are you doing? What an honor to be here with you.
I'm so glad you are honored, and I am grateful that you are here with us. So let's kickstart off just by looking at your experience from your coaching work. Have you observed that couples with closely matched intellectual or perhaps styles of IQ tend to have fewer relational conflicts? We want to draw an understanding between your intellectual state of being and whether this fundamentally assists your relationship. Yes, no, maybe?
Yes, primarily, yes, 100%. Um, I believe that we just need to qualify a little bit in terms of you have the IQ, the level of intelligence on an academic, intellectual perspective, but also extremely important is the IQ or EQ, what we call the emotional intelligence. But as far as intelligence levels, intellectually, your what we measure in terms of quantifiers in psychometric tests and so on, absolutely. If you're in equal levels, you'll be able to understand each other better. You'll be able to make less assumptions, more informed and conform decisions. The more you have in common with each other, the bigger the chances that you're going to be able to better understand one another.
I think the reason why I ask is because intellectual levels don't necessarily seep into emotional connection, right? You can appreciate
100%. Yes.
someone's mind and how they think, but not be attracted to them, you know? But I
Yeah.
often
Yeah.
question when you are attracted to this person, yet the way of thinking or perhaps their level of curiosity about the world around them isn't necessarily the most appealing to you. Let's talk about how this has strained relationships in your experience when you observe people who have found themselves in that state where one is more, or perhaps let's just say for the lack of a better word, one is suggested to have a better or a higher IQ than the next. How does this affect the relationship?
What I have seen in my experience with couples over the years is that normally the one with a higher IQ finds it more difficult to connect on an emotional level with the other part, with a partner. So sometimes having too much of a high IQ can be a detriment to the relationship itself because the person tends to isolate themselves. They tend to not connect so much emotionally because they value too much the intellectual aspect, which is not a requirement. You can be emotionally connected and intellectually connected in equal levels. One does not or should not exclude the other.
That's really interesting, Coach. I'm now thinking about IQ, and I believe that IQ is on a spectrum. It's not one solid form or one solid state, because
Correct.
you have different kinds of
Correct.
thinkers. You've got abstract thinkers, you've got concrete thinkers, you've got critical thinkers, and all these individuals observe the world through a particular lens of interest, right? And sometimes those ideas don't meet. It's not that the one is smarter than the other, it's just they don't see the world the same. How would you then speak to that couple with respect to coping strategies? Because I know that this often happens in relationship where one sees things Y word and the next sees it X word, and now there's a whole big fight because we don't see through the same lens.
Oh, I love that question. You are very intelligent. But it's so important, this aspect that you're touching on now, which is uh, um, if I can use this illustration of the precious jewels, we would talk about personality styles, where the different aspects, or as you say, the spectrum of intelligence is manifested in different areas. So I would qualify the four personality styles as emerald, ruby, sapphire, and pearl, right? So an emerald person is what we would call the compliant person, is the numbers person, is the tail-orientated, it's a slow-paced person. They more focus on systems and numbers, not necessarily on the relationship itself. So you can see that person, it tends to be highly mathematical, highly systematic, engineers, architects, and accountants, people that by nature are pulled towards systems and numbers. They're not so pulled towards relationships. Then you have the next jewel, which is a ruby, which is normally the people that are the entrepreneurs, the brave, courageous leaders. And those people, they are also task orientated, but they are fast thinkers, fast talkers. And that kind of person is highly intelligent, but is also connected in a certain way to people, because a leader knows they need the group to buy into a vision to achieve its task, to achieve its goals. The sapphire, the other jewel, is a communicator, is a marketing person, an events planner, a salesperson, a connector. So that person is fast talking and relationship driven. That person is going to love numbers and not be so attracted to systems. So again, you see, if you have a person that has a sapphire personality style and an emerald person that is an accountant and engineer, is numbers driven, systems driven, they can both be very intelligent, but they're going to have very challenging time in connecting
Yeah.
and understand each other, because they can be completely in love with one another and speak very different languages to each other. It's like trying to speak to somebody, and you and I are communicating in completely different languages. You speaking English and I'm trying to speak Brazilian Portuguese. We're gonna listen, love each other and lose each other at the same time,
Yeah.
right? The fourth person, the personality style, is the pearl. The pearl is a heart connection, a slow-paced thinker, but it's about relationship. It's about everything's about the person, the heart. Are they okay? Are they doing well? Is everybody understand each other? Is everybody love each other? Let's help that person. They are completely persons driven. So if you have a couple where one is a pearl, the other one is a ruby, or the other one is an emerald, the ruby is going to want to lead, doesn't care about the people, whether they're suffering or not. The goal must be achieved. The pearl is going to be like, no, you're a tyrant. We're not communicating correctly. The ruby is going to become, the family needs to go on a holiday. We need to achieve the place. We need to go there. Get everybody in the car. We need to leave. And the pearl is going to be like, does everybody get a jacket? Do we have enough food for the trip? And they're going to drive each other crazy. The one is a slow pace, the other one is fast pace. So in relationships, having a similar intelligence level, intellectual level of intelligence, as we call in terms of IQ, it is very important in the perspective that you should have as much in common as possible. That eliminates the variance that will drive the conflict. But in itself is a guarantee? No, it's not a guarantee. There are many other aspects of a relationship that come into play.
Really interesting, Coach Paulo, that you make reference to these personality styles. And I want to delve into them in just a short bit. If you've just joined us, welcome to it. This is African Diaries, Shayla Ndikumana keeping you company. And I'm not alone. I'm joined by Coach Paulo Mendes, one of South Africa's leading voices in relationship and life coaching. And we're discussing IQ compatibility in romantic relationships. If you have questions, do find us on WhatsApp +27 634069126. Coach, you spoke to personality types. My question is, does your personality change? Because personality is not just about who you are, but it's influence, it's context, it's trauma, its wins, and those change over time. Therefore, I believe that someone can be an emerald and then flip and become a pearl over time based on circumstance. Am I wrong for thinking that?
No, you're not. And Shayla, I love how you think. 100%. You are 100% in it. I can give you my own example. I grew up as the last child of a family of 5 siblings. So I was the youngest. In South Africa, it's called a Latlamiki. So I'm the youngest in a family of 5 siblings. And they were much older than me. So I grew up pretty much alone. And I am today, I understand what is called a social introvert. Somebody that can communicate well, they can talk well with others, but I value my alone time very much. I like being alone. So I grew up alone and I grew up wanting to be connected. I always felt like I didn't belong because they were the other children of my siblings, they were either older than me or the other children were much younger than me. So I grew up always feeling like I was alone and I wanted to belong in a group. I wanted to belong to other people. Where do I fit in? And what happened was I took on a personality style of, for example, a sapphire, somebody that is an extroverted, a talkative person, a playful person. But what happened was that came with a price, came with a label, or being the joker, or being the player, or being the silly person that talks too much sometimes. And it was later in life, after my 30s, that I realized that actually working with coaching in corporate and training executives and training people in developing their careers, that I started getting the taste and the joy of helping people overcome their paradigms and helping people overcome the false identity they had adopted for themselves because of expectations in family or their own expectations in trying to fit in with their peers or with the work environment or with the family, relational demands. So it was between the ages of 30 and 40 that I really came into identifying my own personality, that I was rather, instead of just a playful person, I was rather Ruby, which is a leader, but with the distinction that my passion is in helping develop other leaders. So brings another aspect of the conversation, which is, everything you go through in life is helping build you into your personality, your identity, your purpose, which is actually my passion. It's helping couples reconnect by helping them understand individually their purpose as a person, as an individual. Often we mistake personality with identity. Personality is characteristics that make you who you are. Identity is the self-talk, that story that we're telling ourselves of who we are based on our past, on our upbringing, on our current circumstances. And your identity is always interchangeable. It's always progressive. In nature, we say in nature, everything is growing or dying. A plant, a tree, an animal is either growing or dying. We human beings, because of issues with insecurity and fear and emotional demands, we tend to think that we need to be one solid, specific thing. And that's not so. We are always growing, we are always developing, we're always becoming closer to that version of the person we were created to be, a purpose, a fulfilled life. So, yes, a personality can change. You can live a life because of expectations or demands, thinking you are a certain personality style, but that's not because you pretending, it's because you're trying to fit in. And if you have the opportunity to truly get to know yourself better, you get to experience your true identity and live a fulfilled life and have a fulfilled relationship with your partner.
Absolutely, coach. I want to come back to the state of IQ and how in your growth, in you finding yourself and you rediscovering what it is you were called for, the reason why you exist on this planet. I can only imagine that your curiosity about life increases. And I know that one factor to IQ is curiosity of life. And so, with that being
Correct.
said, how does one, uh, I want to say keep up, but I don't think keep up is the right word. How does one stay in the know and accept that their partner is growing too? Because Shayla growing, I don't feel it as much, right? I experience the change. I either like it or don't like it, but it's my process. My partner, on the other hand, going from asking no questions to being an individual who's curious about everything might stunt me, might shock me in the context of our relationship.
Mm.
And so how do you deal with that? How do you give room for your partner to grow, but also understand that it's okay for you to grow and for you to evolve as a couple?
Yeah. Okay. Now we're touching a little bit on the psychology of the mind and neuroscience. The brain is a learn and repeat, learn and automate processes. Machine, if we were going to be bringing down to the simplest form of definition, the brain is designed to learn, absorb information, and then automate processes, repeat. So the brain is not designed for success as much as it is designed for survival. That's why it learns from the experiences you have, experiences we go through in our upbringing, in our day-to-day life, and then we automate as much of the processes as we can, so you have attention or energy left for an emergency situation. The problem is that we automate so much that we react out of instinct rather than responding to the actual situation in itself. So most people are living out of autopilot based on those programs that were created in their upbringing, created in their family experiences, and they're reacting now in their adult lives or in their growing young adult and growing lives. They're reacting based on that hurt experience, on that trauma experience, on that painful experience, or negative or limiting beliefs that they received growing up. So again, a reflection of that brain that was this educated, conditioned with certain beliefs, and now is just reacting to it because it learned to automate everything based on what is already written as a program. So when we talk about curiosity, when we talk about continuous learning, the challenge that happens there with a lot of couples is that one person has a growth mindset, as we call, where they believe that they want to excel, they want to develop, they want to continue learning more and discover things. And the other person has a fixed mindset, which is I am who I am. Things are, it is what it is, that's it. And love me or hate me, this is who I am. And that mindset, it's not just saying that that person is wrong, but that mindset is very limiting. It holds you back from experiencing a fuller life. So I have experienced challenge with a lot of couples when they have partners with that different perspective. One wants to grow and develop, is curious about life, is curious about how can we solve this, how can we develop this, how can we grow, how can we learn new things, how many different ways can we make this meal, how many different ways can we enjoy each other's company, what can we do differently. And I love that my wife challenges me a lot on that. There was a time where I was so stressed with the corporate world in my job that I would come home and just wanted to sit down, eat, and watch TV. And my wife challenged me on that. She was like, "Come on, you're becoming a boring person. It can't be just to work, pay bills, and come home and sleep." And I had to change. I had to embrace the challenge and said, "You know what? and between us, the first time she said that, I took offense. I was hurt. But I realized, wait a second, she's right. I can't just sit back and not want to grow, not want to change. The fact that I was frustrated with where my life wasn't an excuse to not grow. I had to overcome that. So again, it requires intelligence to say, wait, I'm not just this. I can be whatever I put my mind on. I can become a better person. I can have more because I can learn more. I can do more because I can become more. The same way that if you're not happy with how your body looks, you look at eating a cleaner meal, you look at exercising a little bit more. I don't have to settle and say, oh, this is my lot in life. No, I have to be curious. That is 100% a sign of intelligence, right? If even an animal out of instinct wants to be healthier and better, once it has curiosity to learn things, how much more we human beings with the power of choice, with intellectual capacity, we have not just the ability, we have a responsibility to continuously develop ourselves in order to enjoy a fuller life, in order to make a better world for our descendants, for our next generations, for our legacies. So yes, I believe one has to have curiosity and grow, and that is 100% a sign of intelligence. Intelligence is not to say this is what I know and I know everything. That's actually a sign of
Perhaps
a
let's
hurt pride, that wants to defend itself. You know.
yeah. Perhaps, Coach Paulo, where we can end off our conversation is us defining what IQ is, what is intelligence, and let that simmer as we jump into the next conversation. And according to you, of course, with your research and experience and knowledge, what is IQ?
Okay, so I'm 56 now. When I was in school, IQ was measured on abstract mathematical space abilities and so on. So it was numbers and cognitive abilities, the ability to learn something. And it was measured normally in numbers and text exercises. So it was about there were 5 different areas of intelligence that were all intellectual intelligence aspects. So your imagination, your abstract thinking, your critical thinking, your mathematical thinking, your and things in that area. Since then, the world has evolved. Again, somebody became curious and wanted to know more. So the world has evolved. And now we understand over the last 20 years and more nowadays the, that it's not just intellectually, one also needs to have emotional intelligence. So IQ is defined as intellectual capacity to learn, capacity to express yourself, capacity to solve equations and mathematical things. Now, please understand that everything we can learn, right? Nobody just is born knowing things.
Yeah.
But IQ measures your capacity to learn and operate in that intellectual level. That being said, we now understand that in relationships, equally important is to have EQ, which is emotional intelligence, is the ability to understand that we are not a fixed thing. We are always growing and developing. And as you said very well, Sheila, is the curiosity, the ability to look at things and say, how can I do that better? How can I learn more? How can I improve on this? How can I improve in our relationship? How can I improve in our lives? That emotional intelligence is equally important as intellectual intelligence and is a part of intellectual intelligence.
The voice there of one of the leading voices in South Africa when it comes to relationships and life coaching, Coach Paulo Flores, or rather Paulo Mendes. Look at me giving you another surname because I know Paulo Flores. Thank you so much for joining us, Coach. I
People
appreciate.
often people often ask me about Paulo Coelho, the Brazilian
Ah,
author.
yes. Yes, yes,
from Alchemist. So I say, no,
absolutely.
I'm going to have to write my own books now because people need to know who Paulo Mendes is.
Please, they do indeed, because you do come with so much counsel and so much wisdom. I thank you for contributing heavily to the conversation. We appreciate your knowledge and we cannot wait to speak to you again.
Thank you, Shayla, so much for the opportunity. And it's a blessing and an honor to be a voice for helping others.
It is 5 minutes after 11 p.m. Central African time. Again, Coach Paulo Mendes is who we were speaking to, one of South Africa's leading voices in relationship and life coaching. Let that simmer in. Okay, if you are questioning, you are curious, you're saying, listen, I think I'm just like my IQ is so high, I'm not finding people of my caliber. Maybe, just maybe, before we try and gauge everything it is we know, we need to understand that if we don't understand the context of people, then our IQ isn't as sharp as we think it is. That's a point that Coach made there, and I'm going to take that into account. I hope you will too. When we get back, we're going to be stepping to a different conversation. Now, what if a person is falling for someone that isn't real? In 2025, AI can write perfect love messages, deepfakes can fake the perfect smile, and romance scams have never been more convincing. Are you into cyber dating? Is the question. That convo is something you want to listen to.